Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Code Duke Nukem, where we aim to recreate the original EGA action platformer released in 1991. Now that we have an extensible active tile system introduced in the last episode, we can start adding in more and more missing elements to our game. This episode, we will focus on adding the various boxes that can be found in each level. This will give us more else-if branches to our level loading code, so what we will do is introduce a factory pattern for the active tile creation. This will be a factory capable of creating instances of the active base class, depending on the tile ID. First though, I would like to tie up a few loose ends that I left last time. Let's go. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix a bug that I left in there last episode. If you take a look at Duke's lower right tile there, you can see that his leg is sticking out, and it's because we're drawing the wrong tile. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick before we move on to some refactoring. So in here, you can already see in the draw tile, the last line here, tile index equals 3. And that's just, should have been plus 3. So that should fix Duke's leg. And there we go, it looks a lot better now. Okay, cool. So while we are here, let's do some refactoring on Duke. So the first thing we can do here is pass in the level in the reset method to set his location to the player start X and Y, because we're doing that separately in the game state, which we don't have to do separately anymore. So that's nice. We can remove this accelerate function. We're only using it for the up and down buttons, and we're going to remove those as well. We're not using those anymore. We are assigning the X variable at some different spots in this class. So let's always use this moveTo method so that we have one spot where we update our X and Y coordinates. So here, let's say move to new position X and Y. And in the Y here, we can also say move to X and new position Y. And now X is only assigned in one spot. Okay, cool. Okay, so that is that. Then we have some unused getters here that we can remove because now Duke is drawing himself. So let's just delete those. And I think that does it for changing Duke here. So let's go to the main Duke Nukem class, because now this stuff here doesn't work anymore because we removed the accelerate function. So let's just remove that as well. Okay, cool. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have this assets class also expose the font and the border in the same way as all the other ones. So we have one way of doing things. I like consistency. Yep, return font get index and public get border. Return border dot get index and remove those other ones. Okay, cool. And then we can go into the font class here, and instead of having the graphics, let's just get in a reference to the assets. And here, assets get font index. And then for the HUD, same thing. Assets. And this will also enable us to draw like the health bars and the firepower and the inventory later. Borders.get. All right. Next up in the graphics class, we need to fix, of course, where we instantiate the font and the HUD by just passing in the assets. Now we can just move it here. So that's nice. What we can do here as well is go to the draw tile method here, and let's just inline it here. Okay. And then what we can do is here in the draw level, we don't need the scroll and screen variables anymore, because our draw tile method is now able to draw tiles relative to the camera. So that means we do not have to do all that stuff. We can just draw the tiles on their world coordinates, and then the draw tile method will do the translation for us. So I think that cleans up very nicely. We'll keep the render code in here for just a bit longer though. Okay, I think that cleans up this class rather nicely. We still have one compile error here. Of course, we don't need the observer anymore. There we go. And I think that is it for the stuff that I wanted to refactor. Now, while we're refactoring, I thought it would be nice to also refactor the ACME active tile a little bit, because I'm not happy with how the code is looking. I don't like all these variable if, nested if statements and just hard code magic numbers 14 and 16. So what we'll do is we'll just make this a little bit more clear what it is that we're doing. So let's introduce a state that says like the sign is idle, the sign is shaking, and the sign is falling. And then let's keep that state here. And let's say the default state is idle. And then in the update method, we can write a switch on the state. Case idle. We need to check for a drop. In case of shaking, we need to shake. And in case of falling, we need to fall. Okay, so the check drop is this little statement here. Private void check drop compared to Duke. So if this is true, then our state should be shaking, because as soon as it sees Duke, it starts to shake. So that is 1. Then we need to have a method that says shake. This is just something to do with the Y position. And then we'll increment the counter here in this method. And let's rename this counter to a shake counter. Shaker, I guess. And then we'll make a fall method, which does this here. And if we just change the way that we collide, we do not have to do like random counter checks. We can just check beneath us. So let's increment Y by the tile size -1. So that we're not too far, and we need the level here, level. And if we make ourselves really thin, so this is kind of a hack, but I like this a bit better than to just keep more and more counters. State, get level. Okay, so let's remove the old code here. So let's see if it still works now. Maybe I totally messed it up, but we'll see. Okay, it stays shaking forever because we need to go from the shaking state to the falling state. So if shaker is greater than 14, then the state should be falling. And let's try again. And there we go. I like this code a bit better than the old one. You know, the intent is more clear. Check for drop, shake it, fall, crash. Let's move the crash underneath the fall. Okay, so now that we've got all the refactorings out of the way, let's go ahead and add those boxes. We're gonna write down all the tile IDs that we need to create the boxes when we load up the level. So 3000 gray box is 3000, and then we get another gray box at 3006. 8. We got a gray box at 3000 and F, and then 12. And then we see a red box at 15 and 18. 15 and 18. Then we got a couple of blue boxes. Blue. At 1D, E, and F. Then we get a gray box at 3020. Then another blue box at 23. 29. Blue boxes at 20D and E. Gray box at 33 and gray boxes at 37, 38, 39, and 3A. And those are all the IDs for the boxes. Now we can plug these numbers into our resource loader here. But that would mean that we would have to write a lot of else if branches here, which would make things very ugly. So what we'll do is we'll introduce a factory pattern, which instead of having all these else ifs, we'll delegate the tile ID to a factory, and that factory will create instances of the active base class for us. So let's go ahead and add it. So we have our active factory, and we'll just give it a static active create method that takes in a tile ID. And what it will do is it will return something based on the tile ID, and we'll implement a default case that just throws an exception. Could not create active for, and then let's format the tile ID to the hexadecimal. Okay, let's start by doing the ones that we already have. Now the start location, we don't have a corresponding active tile for that just yet, so we'll keep that if branch there, but the ACME sign we can definitely do. So let's do actives.add and then ActiveFactory.create tile ID. And then here we can say case, and then what was the if here? So the ACME sign is 302A. 302A, and then we'll return a new ACME sign. Now we'll pass in the X and Y coordinates as well here, int X, int Y. Okay, and in the resource loader, we can then pass in X and Y. And here we are overriding the tile ID with the tiles on the left, so we need to do that after. Okay, and then here instead of ACME signs, we'll just say actives, and then this is the ACME, but that's clear. Okay, and then instead of doing it only for tile 302A, we'll just check if we are greater than or equal to 3000, because if we go back to the level format, we can see that the active tiles start at hex address 3000. So we should only call the factory if we have something that's in the correct range. Okay, let's go ahead and add the camera. So that's 3024. Case 3024. New camera X and Y. And then because this throws an exception, so this camera is now handled, we should do a try and a catch here. Because then we encountered an unknown tile ID, and we should probably just print it out for now. Printf unmapped tile ID, and let's just print out the tile ID that we were trying to do. Yeah, so that we can see, once we get further in the development, we can see which tiles we still need to map. Okay, so if we now run this game, everything should still work. We should still have cameras, and we should still have our ACME sign. So let's see. Here's the ACME sign, and there are the cameras, so that is still working. So let's go ahead and take our box IDs that we took, and let's go ahead and add those to the factory. So here, let me just put those in the comments. So let's first add the box actually. So new class, let's create a box. The box extends active, and we need an X and a Y coordinate. And then let's go ahead and do the gray boxes. New box X, Y. We'll add the gray parameter to these in just a second. Let's do the red boxes. Gray boxes. Let's do the red ones. Red boxes. And the blue ones. Blue boxes. Okay, so then we got that out of the way. So let's go ahead and figure out which tile IDs are. So we got gray, we got red, we got blue. So let's go ahead to the level format and let's see. Okay, so here we can see that the gray box is in object 0.dn1 tile index 0. So that is tile index 0, so that's good. Private int tile index. Then here we can just pass it in for now. And in the render function, we can just say renderer draw tile assets get object tile index X and Y. Okay, let's figure out the graphic for the red box. So that is number 1 in object 2. So each object file has 50 sprites. So that is 100 plus 1. So that's 101. And then let's check the blue box. That is 0 in object 2. So that is sprite 100. So let's do this then. Okay, and then in the ActiveFactory, we can actually just pass in that correct index. So here we got box gray, here we got box red, and here we got box blue. Now these boxes of course have contents, but for now let's just draw the boxes themselves. Okay, let's run and see how this looks. Okay, so here we can see a floating box, and in the original game the boxes actually drop. So let's have them fall using gravity. So we'll just implement the update method for now, and we can say that if the box collides, the width is going to be 1515. So if we do not collide, then let's fall down. Y plus the gravity. Okay, so let's see. I expect all boxes to be resting on the floor now. And there it is. That one is on the floor. Now, in the original game, the boxes would only fall once you got close enough to them so that you could see them. We'll fix that later. Okay, so we have a small bug where normally a Duke should be drawn before the box. Oh, and here we see that we're copying some tiles that we should not be copying. So let's move the copy code inside our try catch so that we do not copy tiles for actors that we have not mapped yet. But the point I was trying to make is that Duke should be behind these boxes. So we need to change our draw order. We'll do that in 1 second. Let's see if those tiles are being copied now. No, not anymore. Okay, cool. So let's change our graphics code real quick, because these actives here need to be drawn after Duke. So let's see, where do we draw Duke? Here we draw Duke. So let's just draw state, get level. Let's draw the actives after we draw Duke. And now Duke should be behind the box, and he is. Okay, nice. Alright, so I think that about wraps it up for today's episode. Join me again next time where we will start opening these boxes by shooting them. That should be good fun. If you have any questions, then feel free to put them in the comments down below. If you're liking the series so far, then consider dropping a like and a subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.